The Apple Vision Pro has finally arrived.
But it's $3,500.
Is it worth it?
Let's find out. I think we have a lot of thoughts on this thing. We actually come from two different sides of the coin with this, I think. One being I'm pretty pessimistic about it. Dave's very optimistic about it.
Yes.
So hopefully that'll bring some good conversation and future thoughts.
Even though we've already seen a lot of VR and even AR headsets, like the Meta Quest, like the HoloLens from Microsoft, like Google Glass, many people were referencing as well. There is one thing that Apple seems to do when they do things, and that is that they take their time, potentially. Maybe they're late to the game, if you will, but they seem to do a lot of research. They spend a ton of money, and they kind of do things right, if you will, in air quotes. And I think, is this the right thing to do now? I mean, I don't know. This is definitely not really a consumer product when we really talk about it and look at it. It's a big, bulky ski mask of a headset with a battery pack that dangles off with a cable, and you put the battery in your pocket. Yeah. It's not ideal. I don't think Steve Jobs would necessarily find this thing to be the most perfect product in the world. And I don't think Tim Cook either feels this way either. But I think for the price point and for what they're trying to do, this is setting the stage for the future of AR and the future of what Apple wants to get into. They've kind of missed the boat with gaming in general. I mean, Microsoft has crushed it with Xbox and with obviously PCs being the primary gaming system. So maybe this is an in for them with gaming, although the whole marketing for this, as we're watching the video, has nothing to do with gaming. It's all about everyday life. It's about capturing pictures of your kids, which, by the way, if I go back to that moment, I find quite depressing. It's a shot of a father watching his children, and instead of him interacting with his children, playing with the bubbles, he's wearing a headset that takes him completely out of the moment. He looks ridiculous, and he's capturing the moment for later.
Right. Instead of just being in the moment, he's capturing it so he can watch it later.
Exactly. So, but that does make me think that because there's two cameras on this thing, I would assume that it's capturing a 3D image.
Yeah,
so that means
I think they actually specified that in the video.
Yeah, so when you watch it back, you are it's not just an iPhone video. It's actually kind of a 3D video, which also makes me think, and I'm getting ahead of myself here, that makes me think maybe not this year, but maybe next year, now that this is out, the iPhone, was it 16, may have like maybe a 3D camera built into it, let's talk about some things, though, about the specs when it comes to the Vision Pro before we get too much into our opinions on it. First off, the display resolution. It's over 4K on each eye, which is a pretty big deal when it comes to VR headsets or AR headsets. I don't know the resolution of my Quest 2, but I have the Oculus Quest 2, and the resolution on it is not the best for each eye, and you definitely can see the pixels when you're looking. When you're playing games, it's like kind of whatever, you get immersed in the moment. The Quest 2 uses a 1920 by 1832 resolution display for each eye.
Yeah,
so it's like a 1080
basically
versus 4K.
Right, 1080 versus 4K. But when you're looking at, let's say, a 1080 screen on each eye, you got to imagine that you're not looking at a 16 by 9 image. You're looking at the resolution of like your actual field of view. So when you stretch that all the way across, the resolution actually appears much worse than 1080p. So 4K for each eye means that you're probably going to get about a 1080p viewing experience. But that's good because hopefully you won't actually be able to see the pixels. So that is a step in the right direction. It doesn't seem to support VR gaming. Am I wrong? Because it does act as a TV screen. We've seen that in the ad. So you can essentially play like NBA 2K on it, but it's just like a 2D screen that you can make as big or small as you want. But I didn't see anything about VR gaming support at all. Did you?
Well, so I actually heard that there's 100 Apple Arcade games that will be available.
Okay, so nothing good.
The system. That's not, I mean, to be fair, the Apple Arcade games, I don't know if do you have Apple Arcade? Have you played with it? They're actually pretty high quality because the great thing about Apple Arcade is that they don't have any incentive, and because Apple's paying for it, but they don't have any incentive to do those kind of, lottery based games where you got to get coins and you got to wait 24 hours and you can buy more coins. Yeah. There's no microtransactions because Apple just pays the developers to make good games.
Right.
But they're still very indie. They're very, they're creative and they're interesting, but they're not first party, like a Zelda game, like you're playing right.
Or, I mean, really what I would want is third party support. So maybe because this exists, we'll start seeing some third party games being ported over to a VR section in the Apple Arcade. That'd be cool.
With that, visionOS is what they're calling this operating system. We've got iPad OS, we've got Mac OS, we've got iOS, and now we've got visionOS. So this really is a full new ecosystem.
Right.
They've got a whole new layout. It reminds me a little bit of an Apple Watch, with the apps kind of being these little circular bubbles on the screen. And it's interesting because you can kind of have your actual native surroundings in your viewpoint as you're looking through it, and it kind of augments, AR, augmented reality. It's got cameras built into the front, and it projects that on the screen on the inside. And it can project that like other systems have done before.
Yeah.
But if you want, you can also just switch it into VR, and now all of a sudden you're in this beautiful landscape. You could even be on the moon, as they're showing here on the Apple website. But it really seems like they have a huge focus on AR. And Tim Cook, in the past, when he's done interviews, people have asked about the glasses for a while now, for the last couple of years. He always keeps going back to, we're very interested in AR, and which isn't VR. And when you kind of listen to the Meta kind of conversation with the Facebook world and Mark Zuckerberg, it is kind of a VR, like you're going to live in this metaverse, literally. Like it's not reality.
Right.
It's virtual reality. And Apple, even though this essentially is the same as any standard VR headset in terms of the whole view being all screen, it's not like you're looking through a real actual glass. And by the way, that image at the very beginning that we saw of somebody's eyes being in the frame of the goggles, as if you're looking through real goggles with like real glass, at first I thought, wow, that's interesting. It's actually a see-through like goggle, and they're projecting something on that. That's cool.
Right.
It's not. That's actually a screen on the back of the headset, displaying basically a 3D kind of, what's it called? Uncanny Valley version of your eyes.
Yeah.
And it is tracking your eyeballs and your eyelids to track when you're blinking and when you're winking at somebody. So you're actually just looking at an animation of your face, same skin color and everything on the outside. And there was this wonderful moment in the video of that lady that was like, somebody was like coming up to her. I think it was pretty
early on. Yeah, this one.
Yeah.
It's so
like
funny.
somebody comes up to her, and then her eyes just kind of appear, and they're this hazy kind of eye, situation. And it's already become quite a meme on the internet. And this whole thing honestly looks very utopian, very Black Mirror, a lot of people are saying, because it just looks sort of sad. It's like somebody just sitting in their room all by themselves with the headset. Somebody comes by, the eyes appear, and then they walk away and it goes away. So anyways, I do think it's very interesting though. I mean, we haven't seen anything like this.
Actually, counterpoint, we have seen lots of things like this. However, because Apple is doing it, it feels very different, but it is essentially the same.
Same with the little like screen on the front with the eyeballs?
No, the screen on the front, that is new, but just the headset itself is, and like the personas, so the Apple's calling them personas, so they're essentially 3D avatars. The difference with this one, which is interesting, is that you point the headset at your face, and it does do a 3D scan of your face. And then that is what is being applied to your persona. Whereas if you look at other systems that do this, it's much more like a cartoony version of yourself. They have persona things as well. It's just It's just a cartoon version of yourself, not as 3D, not as uncanny about. Look at those eyes.
Look at this image. It's quite hilarious. It's got like a HomePod kind of like haziness in front of the eyes.
It also looks kind of distorted a little bit.
Yeah, I think it's because the spacing of her actual eyes compared to this digital version of it is not perfect either. So it looks kind of goofy.
Looking a little Sid the Sloth, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I hope that's user. I'm sure because it's Apple, you can't change that. But it would be funny if you could like user change that out to like, robotic kind of animations or big googly eyes, big silly googly eyes. Like, hey, are you? How's it going?
Yeah, they'll do emojis. Do you think it's a good thing or a bad thing that the battery is like, it's like a little pack, like an Anton Bauer or like a Anker battery that you just stick in your pocket and then it tethers up to the headset? Is that a good idea or a...
So I think I think it's also MagSafe too, which is cool. So it is magnetic. So that's clever. The answer to your question is no. Of course, I'd rather not have that. You want it to be completely wireless, and you want it to have 8-hour battery life. You know, that's the ideal. But technology just isn't there yet, and so this is their compromise. I personally have used the DJI headset, the FPV headset from DJI, and they do the same thing. They have a little battery pack that you just keep in your pocket, and you know, it's obviously not ideal, but it does keep the weight of the headset down. Batteries are typically some of the heaviest, you know, lithium ion batteries are quite heavy when we're talking about technology. So pulling that out of there does lighten it. And so maybe that's a move that they made for that reason, to just keep the weight down. Although you could argue that you kind of want some weight on the back to offset the balance of the goggles on the front. So if they were to have put the battery on the back, that would offset it. I'm sure there will be plenty of Amazon sellers who will make a clip that will just clip to the back, you know, with the battery.
But
so that
you would
will
want
exist.
they might make a smaller cable as well, because essentially you would just need it to be like, I don't know, 4 inches essentially, to be able to just connect from the back of your headset to the little side port with the MagSafe thing.
Yeah. So the answer is, it's not a good design. You know, it's an ugly design. It's not ideal, but it's what we have to work with. Here's an image of it there, and you can see the awful, you know, rounded wreck Apple battery charger. And what's interesting about this image that I'm looking at here, the aluminum encased battery can be slipped into a pocket for portable power. It connects using a woven braided cable. So it's got the same braided cables, I'm sure, from what we're used to with the Mac, but it doesn't look like a USB-C port on it.
I was going to ask you, is there another image? It doesn't look like it unplugs.
I know. I'm looking at this image here on the website, and I am scared. Here, when I zoom in, it's kind of all messed up.
It's a little wonky, yeah.
For some reason, I'm a little nervous because it looks to me like the cable is like permanently put into the battery. So we need to figure that out. If that's the case, that's odd to basically, because obviously these batteries, I think I heard they're about like 2.5, 3 hours, which isn't great. So that means if I'm using this the way that they showed us in the video, which is using it at your workstation as a work tool, obviously I work more than 2 hours.
Yeah.
So I'm going to have 3 or 4 of these, or some sort of wired version that can maybe, I was thinking, you know, if they did a USB-C version, I could just plug it into my laptop. That'd be cool. And then
they may
power it through
sell additional features like that, additional cabling that you could use, but man, dude, okay, so the tech exists. I know you said it's like, this is where our technology is. I don't agree with that. If the argument for weight, for sure, I agree with. They probably did want to take it out for weight purposes. They want it to be as comfortable as possible. The material for like the goggle cushion looks to be the same as the Apple AirPod Maxes, which is extremely comfortable. Great material, whatever they're doing with that. I think weight is probably the reason why they did it. Although I think if I had to choose between weight or an external battery pack, I would choose weight on my face, because I have the Quest 2. And I get about 2+ hours of battery, and I have 0 cables, none. And if I really need it to last longer than that, it has a USB-C directly on it. And then I can plug that into my computer or anything to charge it up while I'm continuing to use it. I think that this feels like, as far as the headset goes, besides the price, this feels like the biggest miss to me. I think if, like you said, with the weight balance, they should have just made it somehow integrated into the band. Like they have really smart engineers over there at Apple. They could have come up with a system. In fact, they probably have, and maybe they'll sell that as an additional accessory.
Well, that's what I was thinking. I was like, you could probably just pop that headband off, and either a third-party company could build what you're talking about, or Apple themselves will upcharge you for that.
Which I think it'll probably be, the answer to that is both of them probably will be true.
Maybe.
We'll get a little bit of both. Because I do think that the band comes off, or at least it looks like it does.
Yeah, they're replaceable. Yeah. Which means, of course, you can probably get different colors.
Yeah. So very strange choice. Was not expecting that.
I will say it looks like obviously they've taken a lot of cues from the Apple Watch, from the Apple AirPods Studio Max headphones. We've got the same kind of dial on the side here to select things. You've got the same kind of rounded openings for, I guess, cooling there.
Yeah, ventilation.
You've got a big button there. And what's really interesting too, and obviously we will just not be able to know what it sounds like, but the sound is got these little speakers that are not, you're not putting headphones into your ear. You're not using AirPods. They're saying that the speakers create a spatial audio effect and they keep you aware of your surroundings. So that way you don't have to be completely wired in with headphones. You can actually just use this, and apparently it sounds good. Apple seems to be really good at their audio. The HomePod is good. The AirPods are great. So I do think, and the MacBook speakers are very, famous for being very loud and high quality for small speakers. So I do feel like Apple would know how to make good speakers. It just seems odd, and it feels like it wouldn't sound as good as headphones. So if maybe you're doing a full movie session, you would still probably want to wear AirPods.
I think
at least.
Yeah, AirPods. Obviously, it'll work with your AirPods, but
your normal ones.
Yeah, but the AirPod Maxes, I was talking to you about this earlier. I don't see, based on what I'm looking at, especially with the power cable being there and the bump for the audio speaker, I don't see AirPod Maxes working with this at all, or any over-ear headphones for that matter. I don't think it has a way to plug in headphones directly. So the only thing you could do is use Bluetooth headphones. And again, I think you're limited to AirPods.
The AirPods Pro, which sound great, and they're noise canceling. So if you're using this on an airplane or something, using AirPods Pro would be the way to go, I guess.
Yeah. But, in fact, I think it's the only way to go.
Yeah. Yeah. Because you wouldn't want to be blasting those speakers in front of people.
Yeah.
One thing that was interesting was the FaceTime calls. They were talking about how, you can view people on FaceTime in a life-size format, and the first thought I had was like, what do you look like?
Yeah, what do they
to
see?
Them?
Yeah.
And one of the things they showed in the video was the fact that we mentioned this already with the eyeballs, but it actually scans your face and it creates a digital avatar, which is, again, just this weird uncanny valley version of yourself. And so when you're talking, it's, of course the demo looks pretty good and pretty realistic. It does look a little odd. Yeah, that doesn't look very lifelike, but it's got that weird kind of animation vibe. So, if you're talking to your family, they're just going to be seeing you in this weird animation mode.
They're not going to be seeing you, to be exact. They're going to see a computer-generated version of you.
But then you get the benefit of seeing them in a full, body size with their nice cameras. So in a weird way, the person wearing the system is actually getting the best experience because they're seeing, if everybody's using traditional webcams, they're actually seeing real reality. But anyways,
we all have headsets and then everyone's just talking to these personas and not each other.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
Whoopsie.
So for entertainment, I think this is going to be pretty fun. I mean, again, they're making it seem like this has never existed before. With other VR headsets, this has been a thing. When I heard about VR, it was the first thought I had was like a virtual movie theater. Mm-hmm. But I would imagine with Apple's Apple TV system, with their spatial audio, and with the high resolution, 4K on each eye, headset, I would imagine it will probably be some of the best in class in terms of just watching a movie, feeling like you're in a movie theater. They said you could sit in your home and make the screen as big as you want, in air quotes, it's all virtual, or you could push a button and now you're in a beautiful location. So I wonder if they've got like a couple of really beautiful, outdoorsy, they have this shot of her in a forest at nighttime with the stars. So I wonder if they've scanned some places that you can go to virtually and be sitting on your couch watching a movie in the middle of a nightscape in front of Yosemite or something. I could see Apple doing that. And I think that whole topic and that whole idea is the Apple-y thing that we just haven't seen before in this world. The fact that they have just the nice things. They have these probably 12K scans of Yosemite that you're going to be able to watch a movie in. Mm-hmm. That's what, makes it a premier experience. Again, it's $3,500, so it better be. But but that's interesting nonetheless. They showed an image of somebody syncing their PlayStation controller to the headset, Connor mentioned, because we were on the phone the whole time, he was like, what does that mean? It's like, no, you can't, as far as I know, you can't connect to the PlayStation 4, but you can use PlayStation controllers, Nintendo Switch controllers, and Xbox controllers with Apple Arcade.
That would be actually cool. Like if you have a PS5 and you want to play the new Spider-Man game and you want to blow it up the size of your wall and use your PS5 controller, that was like, wow, that's actually a cool feature. But it, like Dave said, that does not seem to be the case, at least now. Who knows, maybe in the future that'll come, but not yet.
Work is something that is interesting to think about, and it kind of, at least for me, can sort of justify in my mind why this would make sense as a purchase, because for $3,500, if you're using it for work, one, it's a tax write-off, so that's great.
Okay, fair.
And two, I like the idea. If you just think about the idea of it, I don't know how practical this is, but I like the idea of a totally clean table. You have you have an office and you have a desk that you sit at. Nothing there, no monitor. You maybe have a stand for your laptop, your keyboard and mouse, and then I can use this headset as my quote monitor and make it a 32-inch monitor or whatever.
I think you do like the idea of a clean table, don't you?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Can you imagine?
Connor is joking because I am a very messy person.
Yeah.
Sorry, I like Dave. The idea of it. The reality of it is one thing. Yeah. Everything we're seeing here is not actually real, by the way. Everything we're seeing is just
3D renders,
video with pre-renders. Yeah. So of course this looks perfect, but it's not real. This is a mock-up of what we're going to see. I trust that it's close to what they're going to actually ship. But it's one thing to basically see something that somebody designed in After Effects with these screens floating around and being super crisp and perfect. And it's another thing to see it and it's like, it's not tracking. It's like jittering all over the place. The resolution actually is crap. Like, we don't know what it's going to look like in reality, but
and again,
the idea of this is interesting.
Yeah. And again, this thing doesn't come out till early next year. So everything we're seeing probably can and will change before it actually comes out. I don't think resolution is something we're going to have to worry about. I think the resolution on the headset will probably be insane. But yeah, augmented tracking in your space, I think is going to be the interesting thing. It's like how well is it going to stay fixed in place? Because that's the illusion, right? The illusion is broken because it's drifting to the left or to the right or up or down, and it's kind of vibrating subtly because something's not, maybe you're not in the perfect lighting conditions. I mean, that's going to be one of the things that it's going to maybe struggle with. I'm not really sure how it's detecting you. Is that LiDAR or is that vision based?
They've got LiDAR, they've got multiple cameras, they've got LiDAR sensors, so it is mapping your whole room.
Okay, so like, that actually means it'll probably work pretty well then.
Because, and they've been working on this for years with the iPhone and with the iPad.
Right.
Already, both of them have had LiDAR for I think 3 years now. So the reason they did that, and I remember when it came out, it's like, why do I need an iPad with LiDAR? It's like Apple's just doing their research to get this nailed, so that when this comes out, it'll actually work.
And that's really the truth of it. Like we said already, is when Apple does something, it may be the last thing. They may be last in the race to get something out. But chances are it'll be the best one out. I don't know that there's any example that I can think of off the top of my head, except for the trash can Mac Pro, that wasn't like, oh yeah, this is the best thing you can buy. Even if it's more expensive, it is the best. But let's talk about that. It's the best when it comes out, assuming it's as advertised, which I imagine it will be, but it is $3,500.
Yeah.
That's too much money, right, Dave?
It is, yeah. And in fact, I remember when we were kind of talking about it, we were kind of spitballing, like, I think I told you, I was like, it is rumored to be like $3,000. But, I think for me, $1,500 is kind of that's already expensive anyways, too, because the Metas are more expensive or cheaper than that. Even the Pro is, what, $1,000?
Yeah, so even at $1,500, it would have been $500 over the Meta.
But that's the Apple tax, right? It's like, $14.99 feels right to me for like kind of a consumer-y product.
Right.
But 35, that's $2,000 more than that. But no, the price is very much, I think, summed up by, and you talked about it in your video, by that tweet from Austin Evans. I'm glad Apple finally got Vision Pro out the door, but it's going to be years before a good version of this thing is ready. I agree with that. External 2-hour battery and $3,500 price tag means it's pretty only for devs and rich enthusiasts. I really agree with that statement. A lot of the YouTubers are obviously going to review this. It's a huge clickbait YouTube video. I mean, here we are talking about it, right?
Yeah.
I do think as a tech enthusiast myself, and I think you agree as well, you would call yourself a tech enthusiast, this is objectively exciting. I really think so. And I think what Apple is pitching here is objectively exciting. It's too expensive for most people. Will I buy one? Probably, because I think it's going to be fun to try it out and see what it's like. And I am one of those... I'm not rich, but I am one of those enthusiasts.
I am a rich enthusiast. No. No.
But I value this stuff, and I think it'll be fun to play with. And I think a lot of the people listening to this podcast may pick one up and try it if they can afford it. And there's nothing wrong with buying it, trying it for 14 days, and returning it within the Apple return window too, I'm sure. Yeah. So, but I think the reason that they did this is because they are just trying to get people out there to, first off, talk about it. It's not even coming out till next year, so they're completely missing the Christmas window, which is probably a little intentional. They don't really want, people buying this who aren't enthusiasts and who aren't developers. So all the developers, all the enthusiasts, they're going to buy it. They're going to try it out. The enthusiasts, they're going to play with it. They're going to find things that are wrong with it, maybe give some feedback. And then of course, the developers are going to start developing now with it. I think they're going to be able to, at WWDC, learn about the development, start, getting their minds thinking creatively about this product. Mm-hmm. They just announced it, and now they can, for the next, 6-7 months before it comes out, start coming up with creative ideas to come up with apps or versions of their apps that will work on this, that will be interesting. And obviously I see a lot of, interesting new products that we've never heard of. I mean, I was just sharing this with Connor, like Uber, for example, would only be possible with the device that's in your phone that has internet access and GPS capabilities. Like without GPS, it doesn't know where you are. Without internet, it can't call that, fake taxi to come to you. And then the person who's in the fake taxi is just a normal person with a phone in their normal car. Like that whole business came out of the existence of the iPhone. That didn't exist before it, and it couldn't have without it. And now I think this is announcing to the world, hey, this is the early adoption version of it. It's clunky. It's got a wire that comes out and you stick it in your pocket. It looks ugly. It's not good. This is the big computer in the basement situation that will then get down to glasses that are the size of my glasses on my face. Because I think that is the future. We're looking at 10 years down the line. Apple knows they have to push the needle forward. The iPhone cannot exist for eternity. They're going to have to come up with a new technology that essentially makes the iPhone completely obsolete. And I think they feel like this is actually the product that will take them forward into the future, because I love the idea of no more phones ever, and a device that you wear that actually allows you to be in reality instead of holding the phone up to your face and taking you out of reality. I don't like how these look because it completely takes you out. Obviously, like we talked about with the dad, taking pictures with his kids. I mean, that's ridiculous. But if you're just wearing glasses every day and they look normal and you see your eyes through them, and it's actually real. But then again, we get into creepy situations. It's like, what is Apple basically looking at through everybody's eyes 24/7? Like, is that the future? Because that seems pretty utopian as well. So,
well, they do claim that it's fully encrypted. Of course, Apple's encryption on everything, which is great. I appreciate that. I agree with you though. I think, I do take a pessimistic view of this specific product. I say that it's failure of a product in my video, and what I'm referencing is like it's a fail for the everyday buyer. It's like they really are advertising this as like watch TV and hang out with your family, but that's really not who it's for. I think they're just implanting that idea in your brain so that when version 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 comes out, that is their goal. Like you said, it needs to be in Ray-Bans for the average consumer. But this is cool. Like if you buy it, it's like, I want to try it. I would love to get my hands on it, to experience it, to see what it looks like through the actual glasses. It's just, I will not be purchasing them. In fact, I probably will be buying the Meta Quest 3. So maybe we do a little comparison. When you when you buy it, we'll have 14 days because you're going to return it. And then I'll have the Meta Quest 3, because honestly, let's just compare them briefly. It's half the resolution of the Apple Vision, but it has full, VR gaming and augmented reality built in. It doesn't do the screen on the back, so you can't see the eyes, but honestly, that doesn't matter. And something we didn't even mention at all, which this just reminded me, there's no controller on the Apple one. Now, that sounds good and bad. It's good because that means it's all going to be gesture-based and it's less things to carry around. But it's bad because, again, if you're going to be using this not just for work or not just in your, I want to watch TV mode, but you actually want to have some fun or whatever. Sometimes a controller is just nice to have, especially for work, because a lot of people use artists use the Quest to paint things in 3 dimensions. A controller's nice for that. You're not going to have that. So the Quest 3 does have that.
Yeah, so for gaming, you can sync, like they show the PlayStation, the Xbox, or the Switch controllers. So that's for gaming. And then
true
for work, I would imagine, if I'm using my MacBook as the driving computer and then I'm just using the Vision essentially as a monitor, I would imagine my mouse and keyboard still function the same as well. And because it's AR, if I look down, I can see my hand on the mouse. I can see my hand on the keyboard just like normal.
Right.
But then when I look up, I'm seeing this big display.
However, what you're missing is 3-dimensional control. So yes, you can use a PlayStation controller to control something on a 2-dimensional screen. But if I want to, move around my character in 3 dimensions with the controllers, and the controllers actually function in 3 dimensions as well. Again, think artists, like if they had like a paintbrush and they want to like paint something and they have something to hold, that's nice. Or even just 3D designers as well. That's nice to have. Well, then the truth is maybe Apple is gonna make a controller that comes out for it later. They just not yet.
No, I think they just believe strongly in whatever tracking system they've got going on with the hands, because that's clearly what they're going with is complete control with just your naked hands.
Yeah, but as a gamer, self-proclaimed, things that you can't do with just hand gestures, like obviously you can pick things up with just hand gestures in, that's cool, but you can't move forward in a 3-dimensional space. You can't, and stand still at the same time, because, you're limited on the space of your living room. You can't jump. You can't access, maybe you can access a menu with a little flick of the wrist or something, but it's just all these things that it would be cool if Apple does still offer that. Again, if they want to tap into the gaming space, I think it's going to be necessary. I don't know if they do, though, because they haven't really cared about the gaming space much thus far, although also maybe.
All the things you're mentioning, a simple controller is a very easy, if it's something that people want, it's something easy that Apple can make, or a third-party company could just develop probably pretty easily. If they're opening it up to that.
Yeah, they would have to open up.
They already open it up to the PlayStation and Nintendo and Xbox for those reasons. So I don't see why they wouldn't.
It would just have to be a controller that works via Bluetooth, but then it would have to give gyro information to it. So that would be different.
Yeah. So that would require an API that allows them to access that response.
Yeah.
So yeah, but that's the thing, right? Is Apple is making something completely different in the kind of they really pitched it as this everyday item. It's something that you wear every day. You watch movies on it, you work with it, you take pictures of your kids with it. Whereas there's already a huge flood of products, not just Meta, but the Hive and other products that are designed for gaming, and they're really good. And so maybe that's Apple's kind of, they're like, look, we're not going to be able to keep up with these guys in terms of developing new technology for gaming, and we don't care, because we don't care about gaming. We care about mass market, so they're just making a mass appeal product with a $3,500 product.
Yeah,
but
I still don't fully agree with that sentiment, only because the Quest also has full hand tracking, and it also has augmented reality. So it does everything the Apple does, and it does significantly more. The only true difference is that the Apple One works fully integrated with the Apple system. I mean, that is the truth of it, right? So it's if you want to
double resolution,
sure, yeah, but I mean, double the price of the Meta Quest for double the resolution, and you still
it'd be 2,000.
You still don't touch. No, the Quest 3 is
1080.
The Quest 3 is 2K, and the Quest 3 is $500.
Okay, gotcha.
So if you double that, it's 1,000. So even still, you're less than a third of the price, and it does everything that Apple does. It just doesn't have your Apple Photos, and it doesn't have these maybe specific fancinesses to it.
Yeah.
The niceties of Apple, which is the things I love. I love my Apple Watch. The niceties of things. I think it's just an interesting product. It's not for it's for the rich enthusiasts. We already know this.
And again, just like we mentioned before, this is the first step in their, maybe 10-year journey of getting to that point where it's in a Ray-Ban sunglasses style, and it can truly be, a $900 consumer product at that point, And they did call it the Vision Pro. So that does leave room for the Apple Vision without the Pro at the end for the cheaper, more consumer product.
Yeah.
And I think it's, what are you going to do, right? It's like Apple's got this great thing they've been developing for many years. It's the highest quality they can pack into it. They've got all this crazy stuff with spatial audio, with, augmented reality, with LiDAR sensors, with a screen on front that puts people's eyes on the front. All this others. There's literally a Mac M2 chip inside of it. We didn't even mention that.
It's true.
That's very powerful chip. That's,
it's got a dual chip system because it also has that R1 chip, which is brand new to anything to do with the Vision. So yeah, it's a dual chip system.
So that means the potential of the product is, untapped in terms of these little apps that they showed are very basic. Like, who knows what other developers are going to design,
I guess,
with these chips in it.
I guess I am being a little harsh because you're right. If I think of it, again, the price is too much. But if I think of it like this is Apple iPhone when it was announced, and the apps we had were phone, messenger, internet, stocks.
Yeah.
It's like, that's it. Whatever, 5-10 apps. And then now look what you can do with it. Especially when people get their hands on it, you're right. It's hopefully going to be an explosion in a new way. When Apple finally gets their hands on something, that's usually when it goes bananas. So we'll see. I'm really curious to see how it sells. I mean, the price is so high that I wonder if it's going to sell well. I mean, because I feel like I'm the kind of guy that will drop an unnecessary amount of money on Apple products, but I'm not even going to consider it. So it's very curious. And I do think a lot of people are going to do the buy it for 14 days and return it just to test it.
Sure.
So I'm curious how well it's going to do.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't even mention there's eye tracking as well. So if you're selecting something, it's got, high performance eye tracking system of LEDs and infrared cameras that project invisible light patterns onto each eye. So there's a lot of there's a lot of expensive things crammed into it, so
Sure.
That's why it's expensive. I mean, it's got a Mac chip in it, an M2 chip.
Yeah.
So we'll just have to see, right?
It costs more than my MacBook Pro, so it better.
And it's, it is Apple, so they've got their whole privacy system as well. They're not interested in selling your data to advertisers. That's one thing too. When you're talking about Meta, you are giving up your privacy because you have to sign up for Facebook and you have to, sign your life away to their whole ad system.
Yeah.
So
yep,
it's
interesting.
Really interesting, and it's something we're going to continue to talk about, and we'd love for you guys to ask us any questions or comments that you have about it down below, because this is very exciting, and I think, again, objectively, This is something that only comes every once in a while. The last time we got a new product from Apple was technically the AirPods. But if you want to go a little bigger than that, although the AirPods are very successful, the Apple Watch was kind of the last, new tech product.
Especially when it comes to operating system. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I was like, AirPods are technically kind of, they were revolutionary in their own right. Mm-hmm. But I think the Apple Watch is the closest kind of comparison in terms of a full new operating system, a whole new product. And then obviously before that would have been iPad and then iPhone. So this doesn't come around that often for Apple. And you could tell on I almost said Steve Jobs' face, but on Tim Cook's face, when he said, we got one more thing left, like he was really pumped. So obviously all the Apple people who work there are very excited. This is something they've been keeping a secret for like 5 years now.
Right.
So it's interesting to see it. I do think it will probably, mess up the market a little bit, as Apple usually does. We'll probably start to see a lot of these headsets turn into external battery headsets all of a sudden, because they're like, oh, Apple did it, we can do it too. So, and obviously $3,500 is a ton of money. So, even though I'd like to probably buy one and test it, I don't know if I can justify spending that kind of money on essentially an entertainment device. Because I don't imagine it being that practical when it comes to work for me. I think my head would probably get tired of it after, 30 minutes to 45 minutes at a time. And I don't think I could just wear goggles all day, every day while editing. It's just not a practical solution yet.
If you've ever gone skiing and you've wore ski goggles, that is kind of what it feels like, I imagine, based on my experience with other headsets and just that. And, even if they're lightweight, it's pressure on the front and back of your head. You will feel it after a while. When you take it off, you will look like a raccoon. It's, if the battery only lasts 2 hours, that might be all you can handle anyways. It's interesting. I'm very excited for the future of this tech. Now that Apple's in it, it's extra exciting. I just think that, like you said, we're 10 years away from this being truly something incredible, a true wearable.
Yeah, exactly. Well, another piece of news that happened at WWDC is the 15-inch MacBook Air. Woo!
Yay!
To take a turn for normalcy.
Yeah. Welcome back to our reality.
Yeah. Basically, it's nothing more than a 13-inch MacBook Air that's 15 inches.
Yeah, it got stretched out a little bit. It's a good thing, right? Because the MacBook Air with the M2 chip is a pretty smoking machine. And the price on it is incredible for everything that you get with it. And now that they're offering a 13-inch screen, or 15-inch screen, excuse me, it's a great thing. I think it'll be a good computer to add to their lineup.
It's the world's thinnest 15-inch laptop, which that's an interesting thought. Usually 15-inch laptops are beefy and pro, or gaming laptops. So that is interesting, in a way, in terms of the market, having it's an 11.5 millimeter, thickness, 15-inch laptop. And it's got two USB-C ports on the left, a MagSafe port on the left as well, and then a headphone jack on the right. So it's very simple, very stripped down.
Yeah, it's the same as the 13-inch. It's just the 15-inch now.
I know why this product exists. I had a friend, her name is Miss Heidi. She was... a woman who was, my mom's age. She was actually friends with my mom growing up, and she happened to be our next door neighbor, which, it was interesting that my mom's friend happened to be one of our next door neighbors when we lived in California.
Yeah.
She was, she's in her 60s, and she bought a MacBook Pro 16-inch. And I went in there and she was like, David, can you help me with my computer? And I was like, yeah, sure. She was like, yeah, I have a Mac and, I'm having some issues. And I went in there and I was like, you have a 16-inch?
Yeah.
And she was like, yeah, I want the big screen. I was like, but you realize this is like a work machine. Like this has, a beefy processor and beefy video cards. Even the base model 16-inch was like $2,400,
yeah.
And this is the product for her. There's a lot of people who just want a big dang screen. Just give me a big screen, dang.
It's like the big phone.
Big phone. I think these will sell like crazy because my mom, your mom, like, and then also, enthusiasts and people who maybe have a desktop computer may want a nice portable machine. Maybe they don't want to shell out all the cash for the 14-inch Pro as a portable laptop. This is a great option. You get a nice big screen.
Yeah.
Then again, the 13-inch still exists. So, I mean, I think I would go with that because I'm wanting a small, light computer. That's the whole point, is you get a tiny little portable machine. This will still be very portable, very thin, but 15 inches is a little big on airplanes.
Do you remember, I think it was the iPhone 8 that had an issue with bending?
Yeah.
Do you think that this computer might have that issue too? Because this
might be a bend book.
Yeah, it might be a bend book because it's super, super wide and it is super thin.
Yeah.
And those usually don't work well together, as we learned. I think it was the 8 Plus. They're very smart. They probably learned from that mistake. But it is interesting.
Yeah, all of their modern machines have good, here's the word, structural integrity.
Oh.
So I think they've nailed it. But 15-inch, that's a lunch tray of a computer, and it's pretty big. I mean, I've got the 16-inch MacBook Pro. I really regretted it at first. I also regretted the fact that I had a silver one.
But that's really the biggest downside.
I've grown to appreciate it. I think I actually like it now.
Oh, okay. That's good. It was just different.
It was just different.
Yeah.
It took me a while because I was so used to Space Gray for so long. Now I'm completely used to it and actually really like it. But here's the reason why I think this thing is going to sell like crazy. It starts at $12.99.
Yeah.
So for somebody like my friend Heidi, who's in her 60s and she just want a big screen, this is the one to get because she obviously doesn't need a MacBook Pro. And the cheapest MacBook Pro in this category is going to cost you $2,500, literally more than $1,000 more. Just it gives you the SD card, it gives you the HDMI port, all that stuff, and the beefier processor, the beefier video cards. But for a normal person, they don't need that.
That's why it's called a Pro, and it has the Pro features. Also, this is going to be great. And in fact, I think they give you a discount, but it's going to be great for educational purposes. Like, schools are going to have it, like a college computer. Like, this is perfect.
Yeah, the Midnight looks nice.
Yeah,
I must say.
Yeah, the Midnight does look nice.
It's like a dark blue.
I don't know. So. I think it's a good product. I think, yeah, like you said, they'll sell well.
So we'll just max it out. We got 24 gigabytes maximum of RAM. It ships with 8. And we can go all the way up to 2 terabytes. Interesting that they're not even giving you the option to go to 4 terabytes. Do the 70-watt USB-C charger for the fast speed. And all the way maxed out at 24 gigabytes with 2 terabytes of storage, we're looking at $2,500. So that's interesting pricing because that now takes you into the Pro category in terms of price. And then that's not the only Mac news that we had today. We finally got a new Mac Pro today.
Wow. Yeah, about time, actually. Yeah, they when the Mac Pro came out, it was a big deal. But then very, very, very shortly after, they released the Apple Silicon. And it kind of made it, not obsolete, but...
Pretty quickly it did. Once the Pro chips came out, it did.
Yeah, it kind of just made it like, man, that thing is not useful anymore, and it's huge.
Yeah. But they kept the same size, which is great, I guess. I wonder if you can swap out the motherboard on the old one. They didn't mention that. It would be interesting if you could just use the same shell and just put the new Apple Silicon in here.
That would be interesting.
I don't think so. I don't think you can, but they're using the same shell. There's a lot of space in here because the M2 is quite small compared to Intel systems, but it does still give you the modularity that you want for a Pro system. You can max it out. Let's max this sucker out. So first off, it starts at $7,000.
Now, if I remember correctly, the original Mac Pro could max out at $52,000, give or take.
Let's try it. So by the way, the M2 Ultra is that 4 M2s put together now?
Yeah, something like that. I think that's true.
So 24 core CPU, 60 core GPU, 32 core neural engine. We can bump that up to 76 cores of GPU for $1,000. We can jump up to 192 gigabytes of unified RAM. Do we want to go to 8 terabytes of storage?
Might as well.
Heck yeah. Do we want to add the $400 wheels to this
Yes,
system?
of course we do.
Okay. What about... Okay, so for that price, we've completely maxed it out on Apple's website. Those are actually the only options that we're given.
I feel like we were given more options on the other one. That might sway the price.
Yeah, it's $12,000.
Okay.
So that's actually not bad. And I'm sure it smokes the old Mac Pro at this point.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
The 76 core GPU is going to be blazing fast. 190 gigabytes of RAM. And you can put the afterburner cards in there as well, so you can beef that up. But the interesting thing to me, though, with the Mac Pro is the fact that they also refreshed the Mac Studio.
Yeah, really
which
fast.
Allows you, I mean, so we've got the same chip in there, the M2 Ultra. Let's max this sucker out. So that one starts at $4,000, which is already cheaper. Let's max that out to the same 76 core GPU option. Let's go to the same 192 gigabytes of RAM. Let's go to the same 8 terabyte of storage. There's no option for wheels on the Studio.
Darn.
And we're looking at $8,799. Now, for what it's worth, this is essentially the exact same as the same thing that I was just looking at. In fact, this has an SD card on it, which is, in my opinion, an addition. The only thing that we're losing with this is the ability to upgrade it in the future, whereas the Mac Pro gives you the ability to slot in different GPUs. You can put the afterburner card in there. I think you can do user accessible RAM options as well.
You can also rack them, which is, so, I mean, if you're doing some intense, crazy computing, you can have multiple Mac Pros stacked
that's cool.
and connected and working together. So that's a difference.
So I think the Mac Pro exists for those F1 car, type of people. It's Pixar. It's, Universal Studios visual effects department.
Yeah.
Weta Digital. Like, Weta is going to have these on every, maxed out, like, whatever. But then again, those guys use servers and they use, like, their own custom computers and stuff. But anyways, it's like movie studios. It's coloring suites. It's VFX artists. That thing is the top of the top, and they want to be able to just slot things in it.
Rich YouTubers, enthusiasts. Yeah.
This is a big deal for me as somebody who loves buying new products, especially Apple products. I have not been tempted to buy anything because once I was using the Mac Mini for a while, the M1 Mac Mini, just because it was a cheap way to get into the Apple Silicon at the time, and I was using an Intel laptop for at that time as well. But because I fell in love with Apple Silicon, and when the M1 Max laptop came out, I was fortunate enough to be working with Amy and Jordan. They bought the machine, and then I bought it from them. But I've had the M1 Max completely maxed out. I've got the 4 terabytes. I wish I got the 8, but 4 terabytes is also really nice.
If you have 8 and you're using all 8, there's a different issue.
Yeah, exactly. But I will say I'm very happy with this machine. I'm still not even really pushing it to its limits. I do have moments where, it kind of hiccups here and there because I throw, multicam 4K files on it and stuff. But man, it's nowhere near what I'm used to growing up in this industry using old machines. Things just export so fast. We were talking about, we had a big edit session last week, you and me.
Right.
And we were exporting stuff, and it, you would get up to pour yourself a cup of coffee. By the time you sat down, after you just poured it, not brewing a cup of coffee, you walk to the kitchen, you pour it, you come back, it's done.
Yeah.
It's
done, and then airdrop to you.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it's just, at this point, these machines, that I'm glad they're getting better, but I don't even need an M2 Ultra. I don't even need 192 gigs of RAM. I've always thought that I needed the maximum whatever.
Right.
And, honestly, I'm not doing maximum stuff. I'm just doing 4K. Maybe I'm playing around with 8K, especially as new cameras come out. We'll probably mess around with 8K here and there. But even with 8K, I think I'm fine with the M1 Max for another couple years.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I think that we finally hit the point where the technology has surpassed, the computing technology has surpassed the technology of the demand of our workflow. Because for a long time, we were always slowed down by the machine. We're always waiting on the machine, for XYZ thing. We can't play back at full render. We're doing pre-renders whenever we drop in graphics. When we did an export, it would take an hour plus. And now all of those choke points have been alleviated. And so I totally agree. I have the M1 Max MacBook Pro, and I have no reason to upgrade this computer maybe till the M3 or the M4 Pro. Like, who knows? Like, it's fine. It works great. I don't feel like my machine is slowing me down. I mean, I put out a video today in like 3 hours, start to finish, and
great job.
And it was, thank you. And it was, I didn't feel like it slowed me down at all. So I agree with you. I think this is all great. And if you're still on an Intel-based Mac or on a PC, definitely go check out these things, because these things are great. It'd be a wonderful time to upgrade.
By the way, the video is live on Connor's channel. Apple's Vision Pro is a failure. So check it out. It's actually a great thumbnail, great video. So
maybe a little clickbaity, but no, I mean, we talked about it already.
So there was also some other things that were announced, little things and big things. I'm playing the video here. One thing that they announced for iPhone is the ability to finally share your contacts by just pulling your iPhone up to somebody else's iPhone and hitting share.
Yeah.
Who would have thought? Androids have been doing this for years, and it seems like an obvious thing. Like, literally everybody has iPhones, especially here in America. Why don't they all talk to each other? I can't tell you how many times I meet somebody at church, or I meet somebody at NAB or whatever. We want to exchange numbers. It's like, and then you have to do that awkward too, where it's like, what's your name again? Because it's like you forget,
Oh my gosh,
I always say, how do you spell your name? Even if it's like,
that's a good one. That's clever. I'm gonna have to use that.
Yeah, because it's obviously me also just getting their name because I forgot. But it's really bad when it's like Ben, or whatever.
Yeah.
How do you spell?
Shoot.
Yeah, so I've done. How do you spell your last name? I do that and think that they'll then tell me their first name, but then sometimes they just tell me the last name, and then I don't get their first name, and so on my phone I just have just their last name.
Oh yeah, I've done that, or I forget their last name, and like for instance, when I worked at Starbucks for a couple of years, I would put in their first name and just write Starbucks for their last name.
Nice.
So I knew it was this person from Starbucks, and worked.
This is great. Androids have been doing this for a while, but it's obviously going to become so normal now with iPhones. Everybody's going to be doing this. I can, and not only that, but it also shares, I think, whatever profile picture you have, plus whatever font you happen to choose for whatever. So it's really nice.
Yeah,
really, really
it's
nice.
about time, and it looks great. Yeah.
FaceTime on TV with Apple TV. So if you have an Apple TV, you can set your phone on your TV stand and use that as a camera and look at people on a giant screen. I think Xbox did this first with the Kinect.
Yeah.
Here we are with the Apple TV.
2013, 10 years ago.
Also, let's be honest, nobody's going to do this. I think it's kind of ridiculous. I do think it would be fun if it actually happened with people like my parents. Like they would probably love this, to see their grandkids on a big screen, right? Mm-hmm. A lot of old people. But the problem is older people are going to just be fumbling with their phone. What do? I set it on the what? And what button do I push? I mean, it's just going to be a nightmare. So, cool idea. I don't know how many people are going to use it, but it does use continuity camera to like zoom in on the image digitally. So if it's on the TV stand really far away, you're going to have this probably like really low res zoom.
Yeah, and on terrible lighting, because no one has good lighting.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Except in this ad.
Yeah, of course.
One of the last things that was left with Apple Maps compared to Google Maps was offline access. You can now do that with Apple Maps. So say you're going somewhere that doesn't have good cell service or good GPS. It also has, by the way, it has topical data as well. So it can track, using, whatever data they need for elevation and stuff. So as you're, going on a hike, you can download a map of a certain region or a park that you're going to go hiking. You can actually download that for offline access. It can track your topical, wherever you are in terms of elevation, and figure out where you are and get you back to wherever you parked your car.
Yeah. Yeah. Make sure that people don't get lost as easily. Great feature.
They've got a new mode for AirPods, which I didn't fully understand.
It's ambient control. Like the Sonys I'm wearing right now, they have it.
Terrible, right?
Hate that feature. Personally, to me, I don't like it when things do things automatically. Same reason why I don't use Final Cut. Maybe you'll love it. But for me, it's like, it like does a thing like if I start talking to someone while I'm wearing headphones, it'll automatically make it pass through, which sounds great, except that when you're in a coffee shop and things are loud, sometimes Apple will do it fine, I'm sure, but still, when, or you sneeze, and then it dips the audio out for 4 seconds. You got to wait for it to be like, oh, he's not talking anymore. And then it comes back. That's a little annoying. So, but whatever. It's a feature. People like it. I don't.
Multiple alarms finally on the iPad. So it's literally a feature that they put in a video summary.
What was the quote? That was great.
So it's been kind of a known joke in the Apple community that Apple just doesn't have multiple timers enabled on their devices. The HomePod recently got that feature added. And they finally added it to the iPad. And Craig Federighi said a great line in the keynote. He said, "Multiple timers, an age of wonders." Mm-hmm. So it's like we have all this great technology that's cutting edge and mind blowing, and the fact that we have multiple timers makes everybody excited.
Multiple timers was announced at the same time as AR goggles.
So yeah, this is an interesting little thing that I wasn't really paying attention because I was just obsessed with what was coming with the Vision Pro, but. This little nightstand mode, I guess you got to buy this little accessory that either Apple or Belkin is going to sell. Your phone can become this tiny little thing.
Do you have to buy it? I mean, that's literally it's a MagSafe stand. That's all it is.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, you're right. That's probably not then. You could probably just put it on its side.
Yeah, it looks like it maybe Apple will be able to just
detect. Like the Apple Watch.
Yeah, it'll be able to just detect. It's like, oh, I am charging and I'm on my side in a particular orientation. Therefore, I should be in this particular mode, and you set it up how you want it to look. Obviously, there's lots of different customizations for it. Same thing, like you just said, with the watch, does the same thing. It's a good feature. Yeah. Use it as a feature. Proper alarm clock.
Could put it on my nightstand, Kai, and
if you're watching,
as an alarm.
Who has nightstands? Are nightstands a thing?
I have a nightstand.
Yeah, it's pretty common.
Oh shit! Sorry, this is some American thing, isn't it? What the fuck is a nightstand?
Like a little side table.
Wait. Well, you just call it side table. It's the same amount of syllables.
Visual voicemail as it comes in. So it's like live voicemail. So it's kind of simulating what answering machines used to be, where somebody calls and, as they're talking, it's dictating what they're saying. You can then decide to accept the call if you want, or block it or send it to voicemail. This has been in the Google Pixel for several years now. Adam says, this is what visual voicemail is going to be. Pick up, it's me, pick up, hey, pick up. Because they know that they're looking at their screen, reading it.
Well, I mean, remember, dude, back in the past when we had home phones, you remember home phones?
Of course.
That's instead of it being through text, of course, it would, you'd hear the boop and it'd be like, hey, it's me, Grandma, just calling to say hi. And then you'd be like, oh, it's Grandma, let me answer, whatever. Or oh, it's Grandma, let me ignore that. Whatever, your family dynamic is. Cool feature, great thing. Yeah, Apple is innovation that excites.
Of course, they announced the new Mac OS. They're calling this one Sonoma, which because I lived in California. Actually, I am familiar with Sonoma, California. It's a beautiful landscape, of course. I love the background. It's very Windows XP looking to me.
Which
green.
Don't tell Apple
hills.
that it's Windows-esque.
Yeah. But you can now do widgets on the Mac, which is cool. But again, that's been around for a while. I don't know if you are old enough to use the older Leopard Mac OS systems. Oh. I've been using widgets since 2008, yo.
Yeah, so they're making a comeback, baby. Let's go, like records.
And I wonder if that's opened up to different apps as well. So that might create a little ecosystem of interesting apps. I can definitely see companies who, maybe video editing plugins and things,
sure. Or
just a little quality of life improvement.
I could put my widgets. YouTube analytics on there so I could be depressed all the time.
Yeah, look at your 1 out of 10 or your 10 out of 10 on the corner 24/7. That'd be interesting. So that's cool, to have widgets. Man, I haven't updated my Mac OS in a while. I'm still on Mac OS Monterey, which is 2 years old. I think it's the same OS that shipped on the M1 Max.
Yeah.
I've had no issues with it. I love it, and I don't want to update because I know when I do, everything will break. So...
Yeah, I'm still in Monterey as well. I agree. When you update to the latest version, things can go wrong, and I'm in the industry where things can't go wrong. So I have to be a little behind on that sometimes.
Some interesting updates with video conferencing. It looks like they're kind of taking on Zoom a little bit with a multiple video conferencing app. Why would you use this over Zoom? I don't know.
Because
maybe
it's
free.
Because it's Apple, Dave.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you can do screen sharing with it. That's cool. Yeah, I don't know, but it'd be cool if they did something like Riverside, like what we're doing here for podcasters. That'd be cool if Apple did it, but I don't know if I'd be able to trust it. So, you liked this. There's a new PDF preview function in macOS and iPad, I think.
Well, what I liked about it is that it can actually, so if you're watching the video, it has a PDF where it's like you got to fill out your name, email address, whatever else, city, phone. And typically it's kind of annoying to fill all that out, but now Apple was able to just detect, hey, these are the fields, and it, how it auto fills in that stuff online sometimes, it's all saved into your computer or whatever. Now it'll do that on PDF documents, so you could do that, save them, and then send them off to whoever you need to send them off to.
So your name, your address, your email, state, zip code, all that stuff, just like on Chrome or on Safari, you just hit a button, fill out form, it does the thing.
Yeah. That'll be great. Yeah, it's a cool feature. It's a small thing, but a cool thing.
Yeah, small but fun and cool. So that's pretty much it for all the little things. One thing that made me a little sad is the lack of Final Cut mentionings.
Oh, yeah. That was... Okay, so get this, right?
Oh, wait, which one is it? So
get this.
Yeah, no Final Cut discussion at all in the whole keynote.
Yeah.
During the Mac section.
In WWDC, I heard them specifically mention DaVinci Resolve and Adobe After Effects, and they didn't mention Apple Motion or Final Cut, which is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, as you said, a little concerning.
Well, yeah, so I pulled up Hayden Hillier-Smith. He posted a tweet. He said, no significant updates to Final Cut Pro on WWDC, not to mention no mention of it. They're taking it into the CapCut direction, making it more accessible for new filmmakers, but no longer supporting advanced filmmakers. Then it's done, Final Cut Pro. You've been great to me for years. Thank you, but I'm out.
Oof, from Hayden to...
Yeah, I mean, he was telling me that he was interested in probably looking at Resolve. Yeah. But I kind of agree with Patrick for once here.
For once?
He says... he says, I have no wish list for Final Cut Pro at this time anyways. So I'm kind of in that camp, like until I see something in Resolve or Premiere that is like mind-blowingly like I have to have that. There's nothing other than the music retime tool, which didn't come to the desktop. So that's unfortunate. But other than that one feature, I'm not hankering for anything necessarily, so I'm happy with it for now. But
yeah, I mean,
it's probably a sinking ship.
Yeah, we don't need to get too far into this topic today, but basically, if you're happy with your editor and it's serving you as needed, keep using it. I mean, like, there's no reason to switch. Don't bother.
Yeah, and I agree with Hayden. I think the fact that the only time they mentioned Final Cut was in the iPad section. With the new iPad Final Cut app, I think, and they're doing a subscription on that. It kind of feels like now that we've seen the full story here with WWDC, we were talking about this with Michael Tobin, but now we have the whole complete picture. We were kind of hoping to see some Final Cut updates along with the Mac Pro, which was announced. And when they talked about the Mac Pro, when they talked about the Mac Studio, they talked about Resolve and After Effects. They didn't even mention Final Cut. So they want to charge $5 a month for Final Cut on the iPad, and that is what they seem to care about, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think they realize that they're not making any necessarily more money off of Final Cut unless people directly recommend it to a new person. They probably saw that as a failing model, so they wanted to just get away from that. And I think he's right. They're going the CapCut method. They're going consumer. They're leaving it behind. It feels like kind of sad, but I mean, maybe we're wrong. Maybe it'll come out soon, but it just doesn't feel like it.
Okay, so that pretty much sums up everything at WWDC 2023. Connor, give me your kind of overall thoughts.
Overall thoughts, exciting technology, cool things for the future. 15-inch MacBook Air is neat. Overall quality of life changes is cool. Will not be purchasing the Vision Pro.
Sweet.
How's that? That was pretty concise.
Yeah, in fact, because the Vision Pro isn't even coming out till early next year, like in terms of like right now, nothing changes. We're just chilling, waiting for these little firmware updates to come to the iPhone so we can share our contacts with people. That'll be fun. And if we're feeling a little risky, we can update to the new Mac OS and have Mac OS autofill our PDFs.
Yeah.
But until the Vision Pro comes out, nothing in the announcement is life-changing for us, for me in particular as well. In fact, I probably won't update my Mac OS to this new version. I may finally go to the new one. Was it Ventura? Is that the most recent one?
You know what? You bring up a good point. I think they may have announced the Vision Pro early because maybe this announcement was a little on the weaker side. Because
they had a 15-inch MacBook Pro. They had a
yeah.
Mac Pro and the Mac Studio with the M2 Ultra, but
that's true. I guess it maybe they just didn't make as big of a deal because of it, but it does that doesn't feel normal. Like normally I feel like they, just like with the 15-inch, it's like, and you can order it today and it'll be available next week. Like that's normally their thing. And this one is like, it won't be available for a year.
Basically.
That feels a little different. Anyways, it doesn't really matter, but it's kind of curious.
Well, so yeah, I mean, WWDC is specifically for developers. It's called the Worldwide Developer Conference. So even though all of us normal people are watching it and enjoying it for entertainment and news information, the reason for it is for developers to get excited about whatever new software is coming out so they can make apps for that thing. So it does make sense, even though it's not coming out till January, makes sense to announce it now to get the developers to start developing. They're also getting hands-on with it. I've seen a couple of tweets of like very specialized people getting the access to go into a room and try it. It's not able for, not everybody who's at WWDC is able to wear it, I don't think. I think they have it on display so you can look at it, but I was expecting them to get some real hands-on time with it, like in person.
It's probably
very limited.
I was going to say
probably a prototype.
It's probably very beta right now if it's not coming out for a whole year.
Yeah, but it gets people excited, gets us talking about it, it gets the developers ready, gets the whole consumer market ready, gets the stock market excited. Obviously, there's a lot of that kind of stuff.
Here we go. To the moon.
As a tech optimist myself, I can kind of see where they're going with this. I can see how this does lead to that point where, a wearable device can kind of take over and maybe even replace the iPhone. So in that, the fact that I'm thinking about the future, 5-10 years from now, I'm excited about this product. And then selfishly, I'm going to do my best to sell some stuff so I can justify purchasing this. I'm excited to try it. I think it will be fun and it will be interesting and it will be different. And I like the idea of watching my shows with this thing. That will probably be super cool.
Yeah, by yourself.
By myself, alone.
Your family, your wife and kids, they're just going to be like sitting next to you and you're going to be like laughing at a comedy.
Well, that's the thing is like, as a married man, I would love to have that experience with my wife. And it's like...
Turns out you're going to need 4 of these units.
Yeah. There's no way I can... I can barely justify buying 1. There's no way I could justify buying 2 so that my wife and I could both watch a movie together.
Yeah.
So, we're very far away from this being a practical consumer-based product. Also, somebody like my wife, could care less about. I tried to show her the video, and she was like, "Huh, okay, well, dinner's ready soon." Like I was like, "Okay." Yeah. She's like, "This is what you're worried about. This is what you've been doing all day."
She's like, "That is so lame."
Yeah, but as a tech optimist, I am excited for the future. We'll have to see what it'll be like. It may really not be anything like the demos. Too. It might be a big failure.
I cannot wait to look into your 3D eyes.
For a quick after show, I changed my name again. I'm a DVD.
Oh, you just changed your Twitter handle.
Yeah. Just I didn't like the YT at the end because I was like, I don't want to be associated with YouTube as my handle. Yeah. And David Altizer isn't taken, and I like having a short handle. And when I was a kid, when I was 14 years old and I set up my first Yahoo email account, David Altizer wasn't taken, or it was already taken. And they suggested, they're like, what about DVD altizer? And I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. It's like very Silicon Valley to like remove the vowels, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like, if you sound it out, divid altizer. Plus, DVDs are fun, silly things for our nerdy video world. So I'm now a DVD.
I love that. Yeah, great stuff. Yeah, actually, I think that's cool. I like the rebrand on that one. That one I'm here to support.
And it also still plays into David because it sort of spells out David.
No, it's fun. And I cannot wait for that thing to hit the dang corner.
I know, right? The DVD. We're watching the bouncing DVD video logo. Which is funny. And I also picked up the username or the URL dvdvideo.mov, which just forwards to my link tree.
That is awesome. I like that a lot. Coming soon to DVD and video. Yeah, I like video. Right?
Please let us know down below your thoughts on the Vision Pro and if you have any concerns about it.
Let us know if you're Team Connor or Team David, Team Optimus or Team Pet. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And remember, everybody, I'm a DVD.
And I'm a person.
Now, thanks for being here, guys. We love you. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Oh, yeah. I don't know why I did that because I could have just done it in post, but...
Yeah, well, it's fine. It worked live.